There we go. All right. Okay, well, we'll just do our regular Friday stand-up. So we'll start with you, Caroline.
I'm just plugging away doing, so we've got 2 interviews out of the 12 or whatever it is are actually, they're live on production, but production is, we're not announcing it because these 2 interviews refer to 2 other interviews that aren't. They're like, we can't do this for you, go here, and then here is not live.
Got
it. But it feels really good. I mean, I think I said this a year ago that they were ready, but they weren't, because we kept making changes and everything. So they're good. They've passed automated tests dozens of times. And the other thing that we need to do is, because the PDF, we have to make sure the PDF matches the HTML, and the PDF isn't created by the HTML, right? So the docx, I have to basically, it's copy and paste and format in Word, because we know what would be nice is eventually, I mean, this was what I was sort of thinking of originally, is to have an MD file, but I guess, and we do that for Legal Resource Finder, the Housing Guide Me, but I think that they wanted a lot more formatting. In Word, you can do a lot more formatting than you can do in an MD file, but it might be something.
Right.
So some of the things I've suggested were met with huge resistance, and then a year later, they're coming out as somebody else's really great idea. So, so maybe one day we'll move to MD files. But I'd have to know a lot more about how to format, because MD files are just, it's just markup, right? And markup is limited.
And I know you can use HTML in Markdown, but I don't know if that still works when you convert it to a Word or PDF document. You've tried this already, Michelle?
We have.
So
Caroline has, and it came out with the HTML.
Okay, which makes sense.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Does latex render on HTML? Like, that's a shame.
Because that would be, because essentially, well, first of all, the when we do the accordion steps, which is the final HTML product, the last page with collapsible templates, when we use the logic that Michelle encouraged me to use, where each condition then produces its own set of collapsible templates instead of one long nested if, that actually is much easier to do. That's why we're doing it. But in the Word document, you have to use that complicated. I mean, it's easier in some ways because with the skip undefined, it means that you don't have to say if defined and if this and if that, you don't have to do this great big long condition, but all of your steps have to be in the right order, so that you can pick them out and they'll show up in that order in the final one, but you don't use all of them. So it can be kind of complicated that way. Yeah.
It might be worth, in this case, making some intermediate variables and using depends on, if you do it carefully, because of all that complexity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's at this point, I'm like, we're finally getting there to get them out the door. Ultimately, I'm really hoping that the benefit of these interviews is going to be that they're instructions and questions that we're going to use. I mean, you don't need all these instructions if you're providing forms, right? You just ask the people questions and then they fill out the forms and then they've got what to do with them at the end. Yeah.
I have another suggestion.
Yeah.
The variables that you've got in your accordion steps.
Yeah.
They will always be redefined, I think, the way you've set them up.
Because they're templates?
Like the accordion steps will always be redefined, like when the review screen, right? That works for you?
I don't know. We don't do a review screen.
Oh, that's true. If you don't do a review screen, you could add like one more item in your tuple that, and then intermediate variables aren't a problem either, actually. But one more variable in your tuple that would tell you, that would act as the intermediate variable, and then you would be able to check that as opposed to checking a bunch of other stuff. You and I might explore that to make it a bit simpler.
Yeah. That'd be terrific.
Yeah, if that becomes so, yeah.
Because
we can troubleshoot that a bit.
The way I do it now is I start off, because I'm working with Jeannie and she doesn't really read the YAMLs. I have a Word document with questions that's color coded. So the variables are a color, and then sometimes the values are color coded, so that when a variable equals a value, then it has then I put in the template that it the collapsible template or the word pair table row that it triggers. So Jeannie needs to be able to read this Word document, and then also the final document that has all the steps in it, or all the templates in it in the Word document. She reads that. So she reads all 35 steps. Nobody will ever get all 35 steps, but then she reads all of them to make sure they're legally accurate, and she likes the language and stuff. So when I first create the interview, we start off with this, it's called the action plan, the Word doc that eventually gets produced. And I just stick a variable in next to each step so that when I run it through the Weaver, I have a set of questions to go for each of those. And then once I have the questions, then I stick the logic into the, then I organize the questions with the accordion steps and change the conditions in the Word document. That's the only way I can think to get the interview in the first place with all the stuff I need. Maybe that's not the best way to do it, but
no, I mean, I think
some stuff. Yeah.
I think that's a really good need to like kind of articulate, because I was thinking about this with other clients I've worked with before. It's really hard if they don't want or know or care to read the DocAssemble interview. How do you share things for them to review? It's easy if there's only one path through,
right?
Run the interview. But if there's multiple branching paths, it's really hard to let the client have visibility into it. So
I can show you the Word document I use. So we have two Word documents. We have the questions, it's just called whatever the interview is, questions. And that ends up being the YAML interview. And then we have the final product, the Word doc template. But I can show you what I'm doing with that. And the other thing I do is and I'm trying to, when you come into a process that's already started, you need to do what they do, use their tools, do what they do. So basically you're speaking the same language. So yeah. She had this, and also they were using A to J author to begin with. So I'm meeting with Matt and Vivian next month because they've got this TIG to convert. So I'm interested to see what they do. But the thing is, when she color coded stuff in Word, she highlighted it with yellow and green and pink. But Word, you can search on text that's highlighted, but you can't search by color. So it's highlighted or not highlighted. So I've shown her the style. I've created styles, and I'm trying to get her to use styles when she wants to change something. So,
okay. So then the styles will
but that's really it's been extraordinarily helpful for me, is to go through and just style it with colors. And then I have a better, and then we can communicate, because I did it, Michelle and I did it with a spreadsheet as well. These are the paths, but you only have a variable, which we know, and she's not reading that, she's not reading variables. So for her, the variables in the Word doc she can go to where the variable, It's basically the variable I use for the interview order. So when you get a value, then there's a variable under go to this variable, and then that sends it to the question. So anyway, sorry, that's a lot, but
well, I think we could probably do like a report so that like you don't have to hand do things. That's what I was kind of thinking about. Like it might
on the
might
Word.
just be like the text of the actual interview.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, a script, like A to J authors, like here's your script, right? And here's your script. What I think it's called script. And with variables and without variables. So you can.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea too. Without the variables, maybe we could do that.
I mean, I don't know how helpful that is because the variables tell you, the value of the variables tell you where you're going to go. But it might be, I don't know. I mean, if you can do it, that would be terrific. I mean, right now, I mean, it takes me a day if I've done the interview, more or less, because what I'm doing now is I'm taking the old A to J author interviews and I spit them out with, I use their script with the variables, and then I format it into a Word document with my styles. And then it takes a day. It takes at least a day to do that. And sometimes I feel a bit resentful.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I mean, I think to communicate, yeah, these are our questions and this is where you go. But also, I mean, Bryce suggested just taking the YAML and putting that into the Word document. I've tried that too. I think that's a little bit easier because the other thing I've done with that is my Word document. I have styles for radio buttons and check boxes and the little buttons at the bottom. So basically, if I take the YAML and then I apply the Word template to it, then people sort of get what the question's going to look like as well, right. You know. Actually, Bryce, you said don't take the YAML. You said you can copy and paste from the screens, right? And then you get the. I remember
I'm completely blanking on when I was suggesting this. I've talked about trying to do I've talked about, which is I think the similar thing to what Michelle's talking about with through Kiln, but I'm thinking of without Kiln and just a native. It should be a native DocuSimple thing that like you can, given an interview, like get screenshots of all of the questions and what they look like. Mm-hmm. That would be very cool and very nice. But yeah. But I don't remember talking about trying to put it in the Word document at all. So I have no idea what my thoughts were there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing about with the screenshots is if the screenshots are images, so you can't put the values as the variables in there to tell people where they're going to go depending on the answer. You know what I mean? You'd have to do like a cartoon. If you pick this, you'd go this, and then you'd have to. It'd be a little bit more.
AleKiln can do that part, and I'm thinking of a step that will let you do it for a story table, so you don't have to actually taking a screenshot manually in between each step.
We were talking about this as like a playground enhancement. Now I'm remembering, but it could start out as just being like a dashboard. So I'm going to open up an issue for this so people can keep writing notes and ideas.
Okay,
this is great discussion.
Wow, I was feeling terrible about taking all the time.
No. There's a reason we let you take your time. There's a reason we let everyone take their time.
All right, I'm going to try to link. I won't worry about linking all of the related issues because there are some that are similar, but I don't see one that kind of is this whole idea. But maybe if you want to put, if you can, Caroline, some of your samples from things you've generated on this issue, we can kind of see what the report might look like.
Okay.
It's actually used for a real team. That's great.
Okay.
I think a way to do it could be to have a person go through the interview and at the end say, show me the screenshots of everything I did to get here. Maybe. I'm just trying to think of Caroline's specific use case of showing a particular path.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing is, she needs to see what happens when you go to each question, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, that's what we have to do, is because it could be like 400 pages long. I mean, if you think about it, we have we just ran 77 tests. So that would be too long for her to read. You know what I mean?
Well, but they're each in a folder, right?
Yeah.
So she doesn't have to look at them all at once, or is
well,
it,
she
are you
needs
trying
to look.
say
She
something
needs.
else?
I think she needs. Well, maybe because I don't know. Yeah. I'll put these in, and then
getting a screenshots of all the pages, period, is a different question. So if that's the need, then that's a different question.
well, it's all of them not duplicated, and also an indication for each of them where you would go. You know, I mean, it's almost like if you think about like an IRS form. If this is true, then go to line 47. If 47 is A, then go to line 53. If 47 is B, then go to line 56. So you don't want multiple 56s, 57s, and 47s in there. You want one, and you want to know where to go, and then you hop through the Word document to see where where you go. So basically the burden is on the reader to jump around from page to page or put links in there, I guess. I mean, that's another way to do it.
Well, you could do, if debug is true, also include this text on this screen, right? And then you could make an umbrella interview that just calls every screen.
But your final product has to be a Word document.
Yeah.
The final, it can't be screenshots.
Right. Well, it could have screenshots in it, but you don't want more than one of the same screenshot.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying would be why does it have to be a Word document instead of screenshots? Sorry, I missed that part.
Well, screenshots, you have to put screenshots into something. They can't be separate files.
But the screenshots go into a Word
But you could make them all into, you could make them all into one PDF. Like you could.
Yeah. Oh yeah, PDF is fine too. Word's probably better because it's editable.
They want to do track changes to like insert comments and stuff.
Okay. Well, you could with I mean, with a template file, you could.
Yeah, either would work, or either of those would work, I think.
Yeah. So if you had a container, I wonder if you had an umbrella interview. Okay. I don't know if anybody's gonna like this. I'm using a hammer. I've got a hammer. I've got a hammer and I'm hammering nails. But with an umbrella interview that just showed all the screens and a variable that flagged whether to show the extra information about what pages different things would go to, you could run an ale kiln interview that would take screenshots of every page and then give you a PDF, I think, if I change some things.
I think it's definitely interesting to see if Kiln could be adapted.
I mean,
it might be good to see first if there's a way just to parse the YAML file, render that as a screen, for every question. That might end up being like a little bit. And I know we could do that if we don't care 100% fidelity for what the screen looks like, which we probably don't, because we probably just want to say, this is the question block, this is the sub question area, here are the fields and what the fields look like. It's kind of what we already do.
Would you be able to show the path?
Well, I don't know. That's probably
something. Dependencies. That's a thing that I've thought about this. I mean, if you have a question, you can get what that question needs to be shown. Like you can get, it needs user 0, or it needs this field variable, or like whatever.
That's what we do now in the debugging, right, Bryce?
Pretty much, yeah. Like you manually do that with debug, or like when you're on a screen, you do like the show all the info. That's what DocAssemble shows you, and you can get that. Like that's a thing that
it's in the DOM too. So, but it's probably in DocAssemble itself.
Well, no, I'm saying we can get that. Honestly, we can get that at a better level than DocAssemble gives it to you in the DOM, which would be a lot of other additional parsing. And notably, we could get, it gets into like weird graph theory stuff, but like if you get like all of the different things of like, oh, say you have an interview that sets like users correctly, but it doesn't set whatever, like one particular word on the screen is stored in a variable. And so you could say, oh, like this one needs both of these things. Whereas if you go through a normal interview, you only will get, oh, it's only ever setting like the one word before it sets this, even though you need users. And that's something you don't get from just going through, trying to get it from the Docker sample DOM. All to say, like, this stuff is doable, but I'm not super sure how well we need to do it for it to be useful, because there's a fine line, and at some point DocAssemble just starts executing Python stuff all over the place, and it becomes really like, at some point it's just, oh, there is no difference between trying to figure out what the interview would do and just running the interview normally. Like, that it gets to be a really fine line, and I'm not sure what if we can do something that's useful without having to just start everything up and run everything like with Kiln. So
it all gets back to Frege anyway. Like
Frege?
Yeah. Yes.
Frege, yeah.
It's the decision. Okay. It's then essentially the halting problem, isn't it? Like,
oh yeah. Yes,
like
it is that. Yes.
that problem in computer science. Yeah. It comes from the formal logic too, which is I think it was Frege who came up with the original
a halting problem is like
to computer science.
A like very quick summary of the concept of the halting problem. An example is telling when. How do you tell when a loop is going to stop? And the answer is you don't know.
There's certain classes
for all kinds of loops.
You cannot. There's no way. You can prove that it's impossible to decide to know when every loop would end, right? Yeah, like when a program would end. And the same, like you can't. The program's going to do without running it. Same, different take on this. Anyway, okay, great. Well, we managed to get through Caroline, but this was a good discussion. Here's the issue. I'll link to it, and people can.
Got it. I'm looking for. I'm trying
maybe
to
link to it on the backend channel or something, or coding help.
Yeah,
people might have some ideas or general or something.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like people might respond just to having a sample, right? So maybe we just try. I don't know. Just see what we can do. I have some ideas for like code we already have that might do parts of it.
Okay.
So I can attach files to an issue. Is that right?
Yeah, just drag and drop it.
Oh,
there is an upload button somewhere, but I never can spot it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, it does tell you. Drag and drop, select or paste them. Or if you click on where it says to attach files by dragging and dropping, it actually opens a file upload window.
Oh, yeah. If you read the directions, if you know how to read and you read, get it.
And you can just click on that.
Okay. I have to get them first because they're on my office network. So I have to log into Citrix and all that stuff. But I'll do it now.
So Michelle, anything that you wanted to add?
Brain. I've been working on Bryce's foundation for getting ALKiln to run on the GitHub server to isolate reload issues so that there aren't external factors like that. And I've gotten so far, but it wouldn't be easy to understand if you didn't know the journey I've gone through. But like, we are so close. It just doesn't know where the uploaded interview is on the server. It doesn't know the path there for some reason, which is probably easy to figure out. I just have like that's where I got this until this afternoon. It's been an interesting journey.
How long does it take to run the test that way? Does it makes a new Docassemble server every time?
Well, with the config that I have, it takes like a couple minutes for Docker to download, and a couple minutes and then it takes like however long your tests take.
roughly
that's how long
7.
it takes.
Yeah, I was gonna say roughly like 7 minutes startup for like downloading the
Yes,
image and
for the whole
starting it,
thing.
and then it's just test run
I
normally.
mean, I don't know if you've seen my new configured version. I don't know if you're going off of what you had done, but this
yours
is super
slower?
fast. It's faster. I don't know how, but like my config is super tiny. It's like 10 lines or something, and it's faster. But I do need to figure out also how to make like users on the server.
How?
You know what?
Why?
No, I might not
No.
need to, because I could use the admin account.
Yes.
For
For now, that's what we should do. I don't think we should.
Because this is a server that gets destroyed after 20 minutes or so, huh?
Yes.
Yeah, but then
is it our own docassemble
does it work
container that
real
we're running,
well?
or what
No.
is it that we're running? It's
the normal one. Yeah, I was gonna say I had a version that started up several times faster and like was stripped of pretty much everything, but it's just one of those, oh, we have to own this, it's not worth it. Like I did it once, and I did it like I maybe updated it a few other times, but like I am not going to update it as much as Jonathan does, and every time he changes the Docker, anything relating to Docker, I have to like do merge conflicts and stuff like that. So that one's just not worth it to maintain, but it's useful. It's small. So
is it just a Docker N file that you have that's customized, or is it other parts of the docassemble image that are changed?
I changed a lot of it because so much of it is I replaced the entire OS docassemble OS thing, because that downloads a ton of stuff that you don't need, which like Jonathan has said this before, of like essentially there's Nginx and Apache. You don't need Apache to do anything. You don't need every single language for LaTeX stuff. And that's the size wise the thing that makes the image a whole lot bigger. And there are a lot of other things that you can strip out. And then additionally, there are other things that, like, since Jonathan uses the same Docker image for both like Kubernetes and like just a single image that runs all of docassemble, like the startup file does a lot of, not like does some like extra expensive things, like it spends a minute, or it can sometimes spend a minute like changing all of the permissions of certain files if you're running docassemble for a single server. And so like I had an image that was like, don't do that at runtime, do that when you make the image. That's the normal thing to do. And so that's all that to say. I did all that work, and then Michelle and I were like, or Michelle was like, what, like, does it work with the other one? And they made one, and I was like, I haven't tried it, but I thought it was too big. And then we did it, and it was like, oh, it's not too big. Let's just do the normal docassemble image. So even if it takes 5 minutes longer each run, I feel like that's worth it to not have to maintain a separate, smaller one.
It looks like mine took about 3 or 4 minutes to finish its process.
There's not really any reason why docassemble has to be so slow, is there, right? Like those things you're saying seem like they're good upstream improvements.
The easy ones are the things that were like, yeah, Jonathan knows about them, and he just doesn't want to have multiple images. There were a few other ones that at some point I had like a really detailed printout of like, here's what everything in the startup file, like how long it takes. And I'm not super sure how to make that much faster.
Maybe some of them could be.
I don't know. It's not like a link that I have. It's just like I run it locally, and I put timestamps on each, like print out a whole bunch of timestamps in the startup file. And I don't know if I have
put that in a Google document or something.
I'm saying I don't know if I have it anymore.
Oh, okay.
At some point I did that, and I kept the notes that I needed to, but I didn't keep like, oh, this is everything.
Well, where are the notes that you needed to keep? How about those?
Sure, I'll try to find them and see if I can share.
Sorry. This is something that I go away from and come back to, and having some foundation.
That's fair.
Might be helpful in discussing it with like people.
I know the notes are bad, which is why I don't show them anywhere, because they're
okay. I will keep that in mind, and I won't share them widely. How about that?
Sure. I'll see if I can find them, is the thing.
I'll share.
That's the worst thing, is trying to find stuff. Ugh.
It's mostly if I can find them, and like I know if it'll be even useful by the time they are found. Like,
Yeah.
it's one of those. Jonathan's already changed several things in the startup, and like downloads fonts and stuff. Or I don't know.
Are you
Things are always changing. So
Doc is being slow just for these processes, or are you thinking in general? Because I feel like my doc assemble has slowed way down since the last update, and I already have that. What is that thing? What is it called?
UnoConf.
Yeah, that was already enabled on mine, so there's nothing. It's like trying to lose weight and cut out beer when you don't drink.
Well, I noticed that Jonathan just answered on the Slack that even though it's able to handle multiple processes at a time, it only allows one to run at a time. So like,
so it's not really
you see that
multi-threaded?
it's not really just the UnoConf process only processes one file at a time, even though it has the capability to do more. So that's that was interesting. So
well, it's like what's it called? So all the psychologists are now saying, well, people can't actually multitask. It's just some people are better at shifting from one task to another quicker. So same thing with computers, or at least
it shouldn't be the same thing with the computers, though. Is the issue?
I know.
At least, but yeah,
they're only human.
Not.
Yeah.
So where was I? I don't remember if it was this week or last week, but I got Combo Box working and there's an accessibility issue with it. But that
has been merged.
Thing.
Okay.
Is it fixed?
It should be. I'm
then
pretty
our
sure
tests will break. But okay.
We'll
That's
see when we update, they'll break. Yeah.
They should. I mean, that'll be good. That'll be a good thing, if annoying. And we need to write a failing test for the accessibility thing. I can write a page with at some point with some
manual contrast.
HTML that's not accessible. Because we want to keep DocAssemble accessible for sure. So yes. So yeah, file in the wrong place. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not sure if people do need to test databases. Like I think Michael does need his stuff connected to S3 and stuff. I'm not sure it's going to be that attractive an option because Bryce told me. So I'm assuming this is a thing, but it took that connecting to S3 and doing all that noise takes a long time for a Docker container to handle that. So yeah, it's not going to be for everybody. Basically, it's only going to be useful in some cases, but in those cases, I think it will be very useful. So excited and frustrated. What the heck? But and also Teammate is amazing. If anybody ever needs to debug actions on GitHub, it's freaking wild. But yes, I think we're almost there. I can't get it out of my brain, so that's the only thing I've been working on. So there we go. And I think I did want to ask about we said that for a customized expense list for an itemized job, that's going to be an attribute, an AL expenses attribute on the itemized job, correct? Is that what we concluded? Sorry, I should have started with context. For the assembly line income stuff, for an itemized job, for an itemized job, we had this whole big discussion where we ended up discussing how to, mostly how to avoid customizing incomes, like allowing the user to do custom incomes, but the user still needs to do custom expenses. And we didn't record it. So, and we can't find the documentation for it. So I was wondering if anyone remembered how we decided to handle custom expenses.
I thought,
because we didn't get to discuss that very much from what I recall.
I thought we did custom expenses, not custom incomes. That's where we.
No, we mostly did. We decided on.
What I remember, the question was, do you want to have categories of expenses? And then when we looked at it closer, we decided it wasn't really categories. We would add a new attribute for something that might seem like a category, because we only could think of one example, which was employer paid expenses.
Employer paid expenses was income, and that's what we spend most of our time on. And that is different.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about expenses. So we decided how to have non-custom things for employer paid expenses.
Right.
But actual expenses, we didn't spend as much time discussing.
And the idea was letting people get more granular about their expenses, but still reporting them in one place on the final stream.
I think the thing too is I think it's a little bit confusing because I'm not quite sure how using the word expense, because actually it's deductions.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
It's deductions. That's why it's the job itemized job list thing, because it's actually deductions by employer. And that's the thing we wanted to be more customizable, because people have very different things that come out of their paycheck.
Yeah. And they also then need to report them in one place. Because that's the key, right? Like, because if they question is, you can predefine them if you're the author,
right?
Match the form, and the question is like, will that give a bad user experience to the user because they won't know this goes here, or they have to do math to combine multiple things into one? That's basically what we're.
I think it's because people have different deductions taken. So, and as a developer, you can't predict all the things that people are going to have deducted from their paycheck.
What Quentin is asking is, will they each need to be listed individually, each of those custom deductions?
Well, like there is that kind of listing individually. Oh, you mean ultimately
on the final?
Sorry, you mean ultimately on the final thing? Can you lump all of them together? That's what you're saying. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I'm assuming you do have to do that, right? Already. Yeah. So, and the question, like the reason you'd want to let them break it down, basically you want them to tag the expense and say, hey, this is a custom deduction, deduction from my paycheck you never thought of, but I know it goes in this category that you did think of.
Right. Like, yeah, exactly. So there are things, like when the court garnishes your salary for child support, and you can be garnished for other things as well, court fees, other things, right? So as a developer, you're not going to know all the things. You're not going to be able to list everything that people have. And actually, now I'm thinking about it, maybe you can, because, well, I don't know, because you're going to have 401ks and 403bs. Is she coming? Is she going to take it? Okay. You find it?
I have an idea.
Well,
that is a kind of
something like a
solution.
Well, wait, hold on. Like 403b or that kind of stuff, that's still income, even if you just happen to have it go to a different account.
But it can be a deduction. That's the thing, right? Because it's deducted from your income, and it's it may not be taxable. Right. So it's not actually. So isn't it? Here's your gross salary, and then here are all the things that come out of it. And so they're deductions. So they're not actually, they reduce your gross salary. So they're not on top of Well, it depends how you're reporting it, right? I mean, there's the employer contribution, but if it's your own contribution, it's not income because it's deducted from the income on your pay stub, right?
Yeah, like the income you get on the pay stub isn't always the final answer, but I guess that specific one, you're right, it is, because like there is at least there's a possibility that they're not going to make you count your retirement savings as income.
And also there's the bit that comes out of your salary that you contribute to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, if you want somebody's income, you're not going to add that to their gross income because that's coming out of their gross. That's already counted for. All the deductions are coming out of their gross salary. So they report their gross salary. None of those deductions are income.
Good point. Okay, because the expenses paid by the employer are another source of income than their gross salary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Conceptually, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wasn't here around for this discussion when it happened, is what I'm realizing, but.
Well, you were around for the discussion that I'm describing.
Yeah, you were there.
We waited for that part and everything got conflated, but I understand why that happened. That's okay. Just that we need to figure it out. I have an idea for a hacky solution. Like if we have to hack it, Caroline, I think I've figured out a way.
Okay.
But and that is to, in the source name, which would require it to have a separate display name.
Yeah.
That's already a thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the source name of the item in the job, you would break it up into two parts. You would call it something like deductions, colon, and then the custom name. And then when you are using your list comprehension to get just the values you want, you would evaluate what the name is and find the specific deductions inside the name. So I think what I'm saying is I think it's possible with the system we currently have. It's not pretty.
So would it be like another attribute at the end? When you say colon,
no, it would be in the string. It would just be something. It would just start with deductions, and then you can make it like, I don't know, a star symbol, whatever it is you want, you know.
Wait, is the issue that there's multiple kind of deductions and you're trying to treat one group of deductions differently from the other?
That you're trying to be able to
trying to separate deductions.
You have multiple custom deductions, and you need to be able to show all the deductions together and stuff like that. But then in the end, you need to be able to get the total of the job as well. So it needs to be able to take it into account with the calculations of the job.
Would it make as what else besides deductions are subtractions from the, because we have in and out, right? Or I don't remember the keywords we used.
Yeah, subtract and add too, right?
To subtract, to add. Okay.
Yeah.
So to subtract contains things other than deductions. Is that the problem?
Well, it can't contain custom items if you wanted to be able to have like a category just for custom items, I don't think.
So you want to have
true?
A,
because
C,
you have, for
custom.
instance, you have like federal taxes, which you want to list separately from all the other deductions, but I don't remember. Caroline, maybe
that's right.
Which ones are known and which ones
so
aren't?
you have ones that the developer so basically you have predefined ones that each are going to end up in their own place on the final product, and then you lump everything, all the others that you've gathered together, and you have to be able to list them in a string, I guess. I mean, I say non-docassemble list. You have to be able to have a, say, other, and then you put them all in, and then hopefully, I mean, this is the thing, is I'm depending on forms. So for example, on the IRS Schedule C, you say, I have these other business, they're called business expenses, but it's the same principle, is you say, okay, well, I pay television fees for $35, and then there's another blank line, and you put that in, then you put the amount for that, and you go, but then on the Massachusetts financial statement, you just have 1 or 2 lines, and what people typically do is they list on the left side of the column, they just list everything, and then the values are all added up and they go into one spot on the right hand side. So
Okay.
I don't know
A
if you can do
question,
Can
one
we,
or the
question
other or
that's
both.
super important here is there more than one category that we need to keep track of, or is it just deductions? Because if it's just deductions, we can say all the ones that we don't know the names for.
Oh yeah, that's the exclude. That's what you did with me before.
Right. So is there more than one I was assuming there was more than one category, but worth asking, is there more than one category, or is it just custom deductions?
I would think it's just custom deductions. I can't
Well, in
think.
that case.
But per job, right?
Yeah, no. But you don't
And
have to
can you-
list all the deductions for all the jobs, right? Well, we could even do that.
Yeah, I
so
don't
that
think-
doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just add them together. I don't think you do. No, you're not going to separate them out per job. I mean, you have to be able to combine them, but my question is, can you, with this one single category for all deductions, can you I mean, you're going to have to lump them together to add them, or you have to do math on them all together, but can you also separate, you can also spit them back, right?
Yeah.
I would think we could do like a parameter for the total method that just says, here's the list of keys I want you to total, or just everything but this list of keys.
We
could be total.
can.
Yeah.
You can get just
Yeah,
the
right.
items. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can already list you can already just total a specific list of sources.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can just list them as well, right? Because
And you
I'm
can
just,
exclude
Do it.
them. You can
Can you do the
exclude them.
exclusion too? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's just math. You just subtract one.
yeah,
for everything
the
else.
ones that are already named that yeah.
But if
I
it's
think,
nice if
Michelle, you
it's-
did this with me before we started this project with Chris and Jack.
Yeah, but then we said we need multiple categories, and then it all went to pot.
Oh,
so,
I see. Mhm.
Um,
I would say, okay, it sounds like
so
we
if we
have a
only
really
need
good solution
one
for
other
this.
category, then that's fine.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
it does turn out you need more categories, I would still think about like the same thing we said for employer paid expenses. Think about how far we can extend that to meet that. Is it possible just to add another attribute like in and out, or to deduct and to whatever, to add and to subtract?
Yeah.
That's just to handle this new grouping of things. And I think we might be able to do that for a few things at a time. Just because adding the overhead of categories to every item can just become a lot. So sounds like we've solved this one anyway.
The attributes, if we
Oh,
need
for
it.
now.
So right now, it doesn't sound like we even need the attribute, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Only if you needed it down the line. For the next one, if you have a second category of things,
Right. Yeah.
then you might want that. And in which case, having that extra attribute to store them in might be a good way to go, but you don't need it necessarily right now. You don't
And
need
we've
it.
recorded it, so yay. We
Yes.
can come back to this.
I'll remember it in the future.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
We could put a note in our document, Michelle, that we discussed it and recorded it today, so we know to find where and how to find the recording.
The 18th. Okay. I'll try and do that.
All right.
Now-ish while other people are reporting, or I will forget.
We're derailing a little bit from the stand-up format here, but that's okay.
Sorry.
Bryce, anything that you wanted to add?
Nothing stand-up worthy. E-file in progress. Waiting. I'm like, I have to ask Tyler some questions because they start sending me unknown errors and I can't fix unknown errors. So waiting
Yeah.
for them to respond. And I
Okay.
don't. Oh,
Is that from Massachusetts or Illinois? Just out of curiosity.
Illinois. I'm starting with Illinois for the ECF5 stuff.
ECF 5. Okay.
Since we aren't actually live in Massachusetts, so
Yeah.
I know our Illinois stuff is alive and working there. But I am going to check the Massachusetts stuff before this week too.
I mean, it's big news that we're like we think we're very, very close to Massachusetts now. I think we've gotten the big hurdle, which was this Tyler thing signed.
Fingers crossed, but I don't.
Yeah.
Well, it'll happen.
Now we don't think of anything else that could be standing in the way, but I guess that's famous last words.
It'll happen when it happens.
Don't jinx it. Yeah.
Don't jinx it. You're right.
What was I going to say? Oh, I was also going to add the Black formatting to like our actions repo, so they can all have the same stuff. And I think I may have figured out a way to fix one of the bugs you ran into recently, Quentin, where like you have two branches that both have Black issues or like formatting issues, then they will overwrite it'll overwrite the same PR, and so it's like, oh, we should just add a different thing, like make the name unique essentially. And I think I have I have an idea. I need to test it, but I'm going to try and get it in. And I'm also going to add an action for the docsig stuff, which you had just did. Like you had just.
I did it manually. I just ran. Yeah. So the only thing I ran into there, which I don't know if you will be able to come up with a solution for, because I was thinking about that exact thing, and but it gave me errors for all of my test files, which I don't really want. I
ignored those
doc strings for.
It's just I was just like, if it starts with test and ends with .py, just ignore those.
Okay.
And
so I was thinking that was probably a simple filter we could do, but okay, you already thought of that. Just wanted to say that loud.
No, and it was great because I was like, okay, this is good. That they're all.
And I guess the init.py and there's a couple other files probably to exclude
setup too sometimes because the docassemble setups have like an extra function defined.
And we can't customize that because it gets overwritten anytime you save it in the playground.
Yep. But so I was just going to have that. There's no way to automatically fix it, but I was just going to make an action that like fails in the same way that like Kiln shows up as a little red X if something goes wrong. So you can just click on it and look in the action and it will say all the things that went wrong. It won't mostly just, it's not going to automatically fix it for you like a Black formatter does, which is kind of nice, but it's still, I'd rather have that. That's something that lets us know like, hey, your doc strings are not consistent. So.
And it's nice. I think we can keep doc strings consistent going forward. It took like a day and a half to do which was way less than it would have been if I didn't have Copilot, but still very slow to do.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, I do think it's definitely like we needed the initial push because we've had so much stuff in the past that we haven't standardized, but I am glad that they're all in and they'll all be consistent now, especially since like we have a whole public page for that. And so hopefully people will just use that a bit more.
But
yeah.
Okay.
That's all I got for the script.
Okay, just a couple things. Like one is for the Weaver, if anyone restarts their server or upgrades their server, it may break until you install the latest version. So I've just gotten that in to have it pinned to the latest version of Form Fixer, which removes all of the machine learning stuff that was broken because of docassemble upgrading. So if you use the Weaver on your own server, install to the latest, and you will avoid it having errors.
Okay.
Essentially. And then Bryce tracked down an issue from our emailed error reports that was long-standing, where at some point, I think it was me, I decided to add a form icon on the front page, the first opening intro screen, but it never actually, the file was never part of the repository, so it didn't show. So no one has ever seen this, but it's just been logging an error whenever it tries to access this image that doesn't exist. So I just took that out. But some people, including you, Caroline, have copied our intro screen, left in that reference to that file, and it may do something different now that we've taken out all the references to it. I think it might show that blinking question mark, actually, if you upgrade to the latest assembly line and don't remove that reference to the decoration, is what's called.
Right.
So I opened an issue on your AKA to J branding packet.
Okay.
Could even do a PR for you, actually. It's not too. Yeah,
you might be able to We might be able to search all of GitHub for that code and alert.
Well, the other thing I'm wondering is if the forms, can you
just add a file though?
Well, I don't know that that's a good solution to like add a dummy file because we assume someone might have copied our code and left in reference to an image.
Is that what you're saying, Michelle? Or they could, or people could, like, we could just add our own file to our branding.
They could add their own file, is what I was saying.
I think that's fine too, to decide we want to add an image on that opening screen, but we never have. So we should do that by, oh, we're going to fix this bug by changing the way everybody's interviews look. I didn't think that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because right now it was empty. That was the
status. It wouldn't. I'm not saying we'd change how their pages look. I'm saying that they could add their own image in.
Yeah.
They could. Yeah, we shouldn't do it on ours, but someone else can. We shouldn't have it the default.
That's what I was saying.
I think
maybe we should double check. I'm realizing that that's like probably in the config template. Maybe there are a lot of them on GitHub. I guess the only one I had downloaded was Caroline's branding thing from what I'd been helping you a while back. But like,
okay,
there are quite a few, and they all have the decoration for millennial. So
let me see if it's in the demo package. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's what I think it might be in. I don't.
If it's in there, maybe the file is there. Maybe the image is there.
I have a sickening
we
feeling.
Don't wanna, but we don't want to have the image, right? Because people don't know that the image is there.
What did we call it?
Or millennial.
No, what did we call the basic package people can customize?
Custom organization.
It used to be called.
You changed it at some point, not to be like.
That might still redirect to the right thing. Let me check.
Yeah. Okay. That's if you know the old name, then it probably should.
We could make it 1 pixel by 1 pixel and just.
I thought about that.
So as not to disrupt people's.
I guess all we have to do is just leave the image definition in there for people.
Yeah.
Well, let me just see what happens. Let me actually just try this. If I reference a non-existing image versus one that without an image definition, does it do something different than a definition, but the image itself doesn't actually exist?
I don't think the image itself is in the custom word, but it does assume its existence.
Well, then it's kind of annoying, I guess, to everyone to edit their files. Let me just give this a try.
I mean, we could tell people and deprecate it and, no
one's gonna
give them a chance to update it.
Well, because this isn't.
Okay.
Maybe I guess we could. I guess it's not, but I don't know. It's like.
I mean, we would just tell them,
Oh.
Hey, you should change this. A couple versions from now, we're gonna get rid of it or whatever.
Oh yeah, I think that's fine. If we give people a little warning to see what it will do right now. I'm just gonna try.
Quentin, I'm just checking. So when you say it's the opening screen, is that the one where you have to agree to terms and conditions?
Yeah. Okay,
we don't even use that screen.
Okay. So you're not worried about
that screen. So that's not going to be a problem. I thought that was the case, but I just wanted to double check when I looked at ours to make sure. So that's going to be fine for us.
So this is what happens if you don't have an image definition. It shows the question mark icon. Yeah. If you do, even if it doesn't exist,
it's just errors in the logs.
Quentin, can you make your screen a little bigger? Oh, there. Yeah. Thanks.
I was trying to figure out, so interesting. No, this still has. Let me make sure it actually saved.
So I wonder why it wasn't doing it previously.
Let me just check. And look at that
Our stuff.
commit and see exactly what it was that was different. I might have miscopied that line. Okay, yeah, I don't think I had that full. Not sure the minimal part you would need, but.
Sign form line 1, that's the image that you don't, oh, I see.
Just want to see the minimal information we would need to get rid of it. Okay, so I think it's just that image sets are nested twice. So, okay, we need, I guess we could just make a 1 pixel transparent image here. That's probably the better fix. Okay, glad we figured this out.
So can I just, so you're saying that when you run a form through Weaver, no, you're saying when you use your package, it calls this image and the image doesn't exist right now.
Yep.
I see, right.
Yeah, so a lot of people have copied this basic questions intro screen.
Right.
For one reason or another.
Right.
It means something about the content. It came from our custom organization package and they directly referenced it from there.
Right.
I want to check what that is. What is the repo name?
Theme template, AL theme template.
Okay.
Wait, so did we manage to make it go away? Maybe I missed that.
Well,
Yeah,
we need an image for it if we don't want it. If we want to have both things go away, we need to add an image.
I think we should have the thing.
I could probably.
I'd even just take a revert without having to like add the extra.
Just deal with the log error.
Yeah, the log error is annoying, but it's much better than annoying us than like adding this horrible exclamation point question mark. I guess that's an awesome thing because
I mean, like I could do this really quickly. I mean, so like we could revert it, but if we don't actually
we can also add that. Yeah,
add that image. It's fine if it's another commit.
Okay.
And we do have that decoration here, so we have to fix that.
We can remove that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to make the PR right now, or I can make it. I'm also on the same page.
Edit it now. I'll just edit it right now, right here.
Cool.
So what's the solution? You're going to create an image that's transparent 1 by 1, and you're going to remove the call to the image in the current template, custom organization template. Is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah.
So people won't reproduce this mistake.
Yeah.
But it's fairly widespread, and this is not a thing that like. It's not like, oh, just update to this newer version that we have. It's like people have to go in and manually change their code. And
yeah.
There are 32 instances on GitHub of this, and I don't think people are going to actually update their code. So
and also there are people there may be people who still aren't using GitHub yet, who've used, who've copied it, but aren't pushing GitHub.
Yes, yeah.
Because there are quite a few people who GitHub is its own learning curve. Right. So you have to get the value of it. Quentin, what was the first thing you said when you started talking? Because I was wondering, I can't remember what it was, but I was thinking, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was thinking that would be a really good thing to put on the Grant Partners channel, and I can't remember what it was.
Oh, about the Weaver, updating the Weaver. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So maybe
I put it in the change log, but yeah, I'll also call it out separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's most of what I worked on. That and adding documentation, which we already covered a little bit, adding doc strings. So all of the assembly line code files now have compliant doc strings that should render on our documentation page. I didn't actually check to see. I'll have to get, I guess I have to get it to regenerate because it doesn't automatically update here when you update another package, right? It just always gets the fresh data when you redo it.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Is that worth a cron job? I could add a cron job for that really quick. That runs like once a week.
Sure.
Okay.
I guess so. I don't see why not. I mean, that'll mean. Well, the other idea is there just an action?
There, I think you can just manually start the action.
Yeah, if there's an action already, then I just run that.
That might make more sense.
We double check that exists.
But basically, that's like publishing your change, right?
Because it's usually not too critical to update the doc strings.
Yeah, to deploy documentation to GitHub pages, and then you can just manually run that.
Usually what happens is like I need to add some other documentation pages still already for new features, new doc strings, right? Usually there's not a PR that's just improving the doc string. I guess that was my point. But of course, it's actually running.
Although I'm not sure if it's actually pages build deployment. Which one is which?
Bryce, are these actions you've defined, or are they already there?
They're I'm not sure I follow the question. They are defined. I don't think I wrote them.
So they are actions that Bryce has implemented. Other people have written them just like we write a package you use, they write a package the actions use. But Bryce has set them so that they will run on our repository.
I gotcha.
Yes, yeah.
I get it.
That is okay.
Yeah, other than that, I think that's it.
That's all. We have 15 minutes, 15
Only
casual
15.
minutes.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to sign off so I can get a little lunch in, but.
Okay.
Can I just, this is one thing. So David met with somebody on Tuesday, the 15th, right? And he's meeting with somebody, is it SJI today?
Maybe we should, I don't know how we should.
Turn the recording off.